Welcome to Winning Retirement Television. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and I'm joined today by Greg and Kristen Taylor of Legacy Retirement Group, and we're going to be talking a lot about inflation today. And are you frustrated with it? Greg and Kristen, let me ask you first of all, how are you today? Kristen, let me start with you.
I'm doing great.
Good
Lovely.
to see you. I love the pink. You look so beautiful.
Thank you. I like your sparkles, a little bling.
Thank you. A little
Always makes
sparkly
things
today.
bright.
Don't mean a thing if you ain't got that bling.
That's right.
Right.
Greg, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Good, good. I'm so glad that we're in the studio together and obviously talking about such an important topic that's impacting everyone overall, inflation. There was a recent study, if you will, that people have reached a new level of frustration with inflation. Research shows that consumers are less optimistic about their personal finances and the economy overall than any time in the past decades. So, Greg, how do you help people brace themselves during such uncertain times?
Well, I have to go back to that song, Don't Worry, Be Happy.
I love that song.
But there has to be a basis on being happy. And it's hard to be happy with so much going on around us.
Sure.
The politics, the folks in Washington, we hear there's a money supply issue. We hear that all this noise, and the noise, no, sorry, that's the wrong movie. That's the Grinch, right? That's what irritated the Grinch, was all the noise.
I'm trying to remember that
yes.
part. Okay.
Sure, if you say so. I'm trying to remember.
I can't, noise. Oh, I think I do
Yes.
remember
Okay,
now.
you know what I'm talking about.
You're right, we'll go with
let's
that.
carry on. Let's move on.
Hey, will you say that again?
No. I'm getting this train off the tracks.
Well, we don't want the Grinch to steal Christmas, right? We don't want that to happen to our retirement.
Absolutely.
That was where I was heading with all that. And it really boils down to a number of things. And part of it is, are we confident in what we're doing? And if we're confident, then it doesn't matter what all the noise is. We can deal with it because we feel like we have kind of a, not bulletproof isn't quite the word, but a plan that makes us feel like we can weather a lot of storms.
Sure.
And there's definitely some storms going on right now. There's still problems with Russia, Ukraine. China's still really a real major issue for us.
Absolutely.
The M2 money supply, that's a major issue in our world right now. And so how successful we are can boil down to a number of things, but I boil it down to structure and philosophy. And there's different structure and there's different philosophy. And think about it this way. Structure is the framework of what we're doing. It's the building materials. It could be the mutual funds. It could be the ETFs. It could be individual stocks. It could be individual bonds. It could be bond funds. It could be commodities, or it could be any number of investments or investment tools. It could be annuities. It could be bank accounts. All those things make up the structure. And so typically a residential structure would be made up of primarily buildings that would be framed in wood.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
A commercial structure, you'll typically find those buildings framed in steel.
Absolutely.
A totally different type of structure and philosophy. Well, it's no different than if we're planning to build a portfolio for someone in their 20s. We use different materials to build that portfolio than we would someone that is perhaps in their 60s. It's not that one building's superior or inferior to the other. It's that we're trying to build a building for a different purpose. Same with a portfolio. We're trying to build a portfolio for a different purpose. So the structure, how do we do it? Maybe a lot of people say, well, I'll only invest in index funds. And an index fund certainly can be very low cost. But are they as efficient as we need them to be in retirement? And that's really what it's all about, is efficiency. So then that takes us to philosophy. Some people believe they're going to buy the structure and they're going to hold it. They're just going to buy and hold and let it appreciate over time. And I can tell you, especially if you are putting money in out of every paycheck and you are averaging out your costs, something we call dollar cost averaging, that can work out well. It really can. You can buy and hold, and over time, you will accumulate wealth. It'll just happen just because of the way you're doing it. But having that same philosophy in retirement can be totally devastating, because now you're trying to take money out, or distributions out of an up and down asset. And if you time it right, it can work out great.
Okay.
Let's suppose that you retired in 1990. And so for the next 10 years, you made 20 to 30% a year as you're pulling out money to live on in retirement. You're thinking, man, this is the greatest thing ever. I can keep all my money in the stock market, and I can take out my income, and look how much it's grown.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you retired in 2000, after 10 years, you could be out of money. Doing the same exact philosophy.
Wow.
So with certain types of philosophies, timing has to be in place, or else you're going to fail.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, I would rather be the beneficiary of good planning than have to be the beneficiary of good timing, because I don't know what this market's going to give me in the next 10 years.
Well, and I
true.
think that's what the overall news and economy is teaching us right now, is that we need to have things in place so that we can weather the storm.
Sure.
And inflation, you start off by asking us about inflation, and I think that's an eye-opener for people right now. They're realizing that even though the government's telling us inflation's coming down, things aren't matching up, because they're seeing prices stay high. Well, that goes down to understanding the definition of lowering inflation. That doesn't mean the prices get low. It just means that the rate at which the prices are rising is dropping. So knowing that, moving forward, if you're 62 years old right now, what are prices going to be when you're 75? What are prices going to be when you're 80? And what if you live into your 90s? Understanding that can help you understand the fire that needs to be lit under you if you don't have a good plan in place already.
That makes perfect sense.
And Cynthia, complacency can be such a detriment.
Yeah.
Once we turn 60, now that clock is ticking, and we really need to make good decisions. So what we've done is we've simplified asset classes for a retirement portfolio. We've broken them down into two.
Okay.
Asset classes that have our principal at risk, and asset classes that protect our principal. And so the determination is, okay, how much do we need to have in each?
Okay.
And there's three categories. There's bank products, there's brokerage products, and there are insurance products. They each have their own benefits, and they each have their own weaknesses.
Okay.
For instance, the bank. Money's safe, the money is liquid, but typically does not keep in pace with inflation over time.
That's true.
Then we have insurance products. We can have safety, we can have some growth potential, and we can have protected income. The string attached there, or the risk that we have, is full liquidity risk. Things in insurance products aren't fully liquid and available. Then you have brokerage products. You have the most growth potential of any other tool that's out there. And for the most part, those assets are liquid and available. But the problem is there, because they go up and down, it's hard to get a dependable income stream from those things. So there's volatility risk. So having the balance between those three categories can be key in a retirement portfolio.
Okay.
And it's way different, because you see folks that deal primarily with people in their 20s and 30s, and they bash protecting things. Or you find those that only deal with insurance products and they bash the market. That's just not fair, because the market's not bad. It just has a different benefit and weakness. Insurance products the same way. So the key part to any portfolio is having the right balance for someone's need.
Absolutely. And Greg and Kristen, we're going to take a very short commercial break in a moment, but I wanted to ask you, Greg, how important is it to our folks at home to be working with a fiduciary when it comes to planning all of this navigation that needs to happen for a good retirement?
You know, I think the key component for anybody looking for someone to trust is that that person have the obligation to do what's in their best interest.
Okay.
I think that's key.
Overall, so important.
Absolutely.
Perfect time for us to open the phones. Greg and Kristen, would you agree?
Yes.
All right. To our viewers at home, that number to call is 614-336-7660. If you're sitting in the viewing audience today and you're concerned about things like inflation or perhaps future taxation, and you're not sure how that will impact your retirement, you deserve to take advantage of this opportunity to call in today for your very own customized written retirement plan. That number again is 614-336-7660. If you don't have your phone handy, go ahead, or you don't have your pen handy, go ahead, grab your phone. Click on that QR code at the bottom corner of your screen. That will take you right to Greg and Kristen's landing page. We know that you have a lot of questions about how to plan your perfect retirement, and perhaps you're wondering if you're on the right path right now. If you're not, you deserve to know today. And again, the number is 614-336-7660. We're going to take a very short commercial break. Don't go anywhere. We have so much more on Winning Retirement TV with Greg and Kristen Taylor when we return.
The work never seems to end until the day it finally does. After nearly a lifetime on the job, you should be rewarded for all the time you spent working. Whether that's crossing off items on your bucket list, learning a new passion, or rekindling the love of an old one. After all, life isn't over when you stop working. It's the start of an all-new chapter. The one where you're the writer and you get to choose how your story will go. A way to achieve that is by having a clear financial plan to sustain your golden years. The biggest fear most retirees have is if they'll have enough money to maintain the lifestyle they've always enjoyed. Having a plan to help protect you against the curveballs life often throws will help to maintain your lifestyle. Call today to get your free written financial plan so you may live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams.
Welcome back to Winning Retirement Television. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and I'm joined today by Greg and Kristen Taylor of Legacy Retirement Group. And Greg and Kristen, this next segment is so interesting to me. This is based on a study. This is from the Journal of Financial Therapy. More than 53% of participants said they keep money secrets, such as hiding receipts or lying about the prices that they've paid. I have to ask you, that is so funny because I know that we're going to have a lot of fun with this one, but how important is it for couples to be on the same page and to be honest and transparent when it comes to financial planning and retirement planning overall?
I think it's called girl math.
Oh
Right?
my goodness. I laugh. I'm laughing because if Kristen, she rounds down.
I do.
So
That's
Guilty.
okay. All right.
it was $20. Okay, it was $29.95. Jaden called her out on that the other day.
You did. You did. But it's so important. In all seriousness, I mean, the financial integrity within relationships, I think, is often the breakdown in some relationships,
That's
unfortunately. And so being upfront and on the same page is important. Now, sometimes it's hard to get on the same page, and that's where we say that we're not here to rearrange a family's financial house, if you will. You know, we're not here to tell them how they should organize things, because we've had families where, you know, the wife pulls us aside and is like, hey, I have this separate account. My husband doesn't know about it. It's been mine since before we were married. I would appreciate you not bringing it up during the meetings. Okay, that's how it is. That's how it is. But
Right.
then we've had where we're having a conversation and things have been kept separately, maybe expenses have been kept separately, and it makes sense to start looking at them combined as we're working
Sure.
through the math. Maybe not on paper combining them, but just trying to understand the math. And so we go through those conversations, and we've had where there's tears involved, unfortunately.
I can imagine.
I mean, we talk about financial bullying with other financial advisors, but it sometimes happens in your own household.
Sure.
Thankfully, Greg and I are usually on the same page with spending habits, wouldn't you say?
I would say so. As long as I agree with her, we're on the same page.
That easy?
Well, that's easy. Well, it's interesting, though, when you think about it, because I know that you meet with so many couples, and like you said, a lot of times there's not going to be that honesty, that communication. You kind of hide it and you want to push it aside and not let someone know. So how do you navigate through that? I have to ask you, Greg.
Well, you have to use what I would say kid gloves.
Okay.
And thankfully, because of my pastor experience, I have the ability to navigate relationships and those disagreements and some of those things and help people get a little bit of harmony there. And ultimately, our goal isn't to do anything but help them have a common goal. And sometimes that's hard because people's philosophies on how they believe things should be done are totally opposite. In fact,
Well, yeah, how many times do we have the husband and wife totally different? You know,
Oh,
one
yeah.
cares more about how much money's coming in, the other one cares about investments.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we have a couple that we work with that we've been working with for about 5 years now. And such was the case with them. And so he was ultra aggressive as an investor.
Okay.
You know, his risk score between 1 and 99 was in the 90s.
Wow. Okay.
Hers was probably 10.
Okay.
Polar opposite. So as I'm listening to this, and you know, he is looking down his nose just a little bit because she's so conservative, and he thinks, you're taking all my growth ability away. And she's looking at him like, you're going to take half my life savings away.
Yeah. Yeah.
And both of them had a valid point.
Sure.
So this was a compromise. As I sat down and I looked and I said, okay, and I won't mention her name. I'll call it Sue. I said, Sue, so what I'm hearing from you is you need to know that you can pay your bills every month, that you can take the grandkids on a vacation every year, and that you have money in the bank. Is that correct? She said, yes. I asked him, I said, are you willing to give her that peace of mind? He said, sure, if that'll really help. I said, perfect. So that's what we did. We figured out she took $100,000 out of their investments and put it in the bank, which totally killed him getting 0.1%, but he agreed. Then we set up an income plan so that they could pay their bills.
Okay.
They could go on vacations, they could do all the things, they could live their lifestyle and maintain and not have to worry about what was going on in the stock market. So we did that. Then he went his aggressive path with his investments just like he wanted to, and we were able to temper that just a tad, but we wanted to keep him within what he really wanted.
Okay.
So recently, within the last 6 months, they called in and they were going to sell the house they'd been in for 20 some years and move out in the country and kind of get out of Dodge, as he called it.
Okay.
So I'm moving out east of Columbus, about 30 minutes, and they found a place, and he called and he said, Greg, he said, we're able to do this because even though I was stubborn about how I wanted to invest, and yes, we've lost some in the last year with all the craziness in the market, he said, because of what you did for us and what you willing to make both of us happy, he said, we're able to do this. We're able to pay the bill. We're able to buy this house. We're able to do all the things we want to do because we had a plan in place. He said, thank you so much for not letting me be stubborn and listening to my wife. And so he was thanking me for helping him get over certain things. And that's what it's really all about. And sometimes when you're dogmatic about something, later on you realize really the fallacy in being so dogmatic and not including your partner.
Absolutely, and it's so important to understand someone's risk tolerance. So Greg, is this something that you would offer would be a portfolio x-ray to couples that are coming in for the first time?
It is, and it's all part of a written plan, Cynthia, because that's part of the investment plan. And so do we actually know that we have a plan for our investments that works for retirement? Yeah. Do we know that we have an income plan that's written that tells us here's where we're going to get our income, and here's exactly the order in which it's going to come, and these are the years, and here's when I'm going to turn on my Social Security, here's when I'm going to turn on my pension if I have it, here's where I'm going to get my protected income, here's how I pay my bills and live my life. That's all written out. And then a tax map. So you can see what future taxes could possibly look like for you and how to go about, dismantling that to some degree, if it's possible to do so. A health care plan and whatever's left over, guys. Do you have a plan for what you leave as a legacy to your next generation? If you don't, then having a written plan, I believe, is more important than ever, Cynthia.
Greg, I couldn't agree more. Kristen, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, that number to call is on your screen, 614-336-7660. You're probably asking yourself in the viewing audience today, do I have a written, comprehensive, holistic retirement plan for my future? If not, this is the perfect opportunity for you to call in and take advantage of this complimentary consultation. Let Greg and Kristen listen to your story. Let them get to know you. What are your goals, your dreams, and your wants for retirement? And best of all, you deserve to have that plan in writing, something you can refer back to, which is amazing just at the touch of the fingertip that you would have that in your hands. It's completely complimentary, 614-336-7660. If you have your smartphone handy, go ahead, grab it. Click on that QR code at the bottom corner of your screen. That will take you right to Greg and Kristen's landing page. We're going to take a very short commercial break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on Winning Retirement TV with Greg and Kristen Taylor momentarily.
Living a life is building a legacy. A legacy of milestones. Your first home. Raising your children. Becoming grandparents. And memories. From the first steps across the living room floor to the walk down the aisle. At every stage, your family is the most important part of your life, and you want to protect them, now and in the future. Which is why the decisions you make today are so important. You've worked hard to provide a better life for your loved ones. Now is the time to make sure that lasts. Build a legacy that will influence generations to come. Plan smart. Retire well with Legacy Retirement Group.
Welcome back to Winning Retirement Television. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and I'm joined today by Greg and Kristen Taylor of Legacy Retirement Group. Greg and Kristen, I have to tell you a story. I was in the grocery store the other day, and I had the most amazing conversation with this gentleman. He's 65 years old. He loves his job, doesn't want to retire anytime soon. He has saved, he's invested for the future, and he has zero debt. Nothing. So my question is, I know, so how would you go about approaching and helping someone that's in that situation, if you will? Kristen?
Yeah, so you don't see a problem on the surface, right?
Exactly.
But what's interesting about that, so many times we meet with people in our office, just like you. I don't know what his name was. Did you get his name?
Bob.
Bob, okay. So many people like you, Bob, where everything's great, right? Things are in order, love my job. And a lot of times the job defines the person. And so you can't even imagine retiring. However, there's unfortunately times where downsizing happens, and that's been in the news a lot lately, actually, because the economy's changing and things of that nature. Downsizing, job shifting. I think one of the biggest companies in the country just announced they're doing some consolidating of job titles and changing things around. And so with change, sometimes comes I don't really like this anymore, right? So we don't know when that's going to happen. So being prepared for that day and time, I think is still important. So as you move through and say, okay, I don't have debt. So let's look at what your goals for the money that you do have are, because you don't have to pay down debt. And, it depends on what kind of lifestyle you're living. But if you're working, you may not want to travel. So understanding what goals are, what you might want to spend that money on, and then understanding what kind of income replacement would need to happen should something unfortunately happen with your health or with downsizing of a job where you would have to make changes there, I think are really important.
Well, Kristen, in fact, what you're just describing, I just had the conversation in the conference room last week with a couple that we've worked with for 5 or 6 years now, and she insisted she would never retire.
Okay.
She loved her job. She worked in a very small company, had a very important role in the company, loved what she did, loved all her coworkers. And so they came in last week, and there wasn't quite that pep in her step that she always had. And I picked up on it right away, because she's always just an upbeat, positive, excited person. And she came in, and I said, okay, what's wrong? Because I could tell something was there. She said, well, and she just started crying. And I said, well, tell me about it. And she said, well, there's a couple things going on, Greg. And she's only 66 years old. So I said, well, tell me what's going on. She said, well, Greg, she said 2 things. I was the oldest and highest paid employee at my job, and they let 2 people go, and I was one of them.
Oh.
And it really came down. Of course, no employer can really say that, but that's what it came down to. She was the oldest and highest compensated. Wow. And so as they had to make a cutback, her job was eliminated.
Wow.
Then the second thing, she said, Greg, I've been to local hospitals here for testing, but she said, I'm having trouble with my memory. And she said, I'm not confident to go work in an office environment any longer. She said, working from home like I was, I could be fine, but she said, I'm just not confident that I want to go and start something new in a new job, in a new work environment. I'm worried I'll be judged. I'm worried that people are, I'm going to make a mistake. And so that confidence in her health was not there. Yeah. And the job that she loved was not there. And so I said, okay, what we have to do now is we have to pivot and we need to change our long-term plan. Now, fortunately for them, they had saved well, that, we had put together a kind of a what-if plan already, but we needed to make some adjustments.
Okay.
But ultimately, I said, here's the deal. You're going to be fine.
Aw.
And it was a pull the tissue box out kind of moment for me and her because
Yeah.
You big sap.
I am a big sap. But that's what it's really all about. It's helping people figure out what to do next when things like this do happen. Now, if the health doesn't change, if the job doesn't get eliminated, you're going to be okay. But if those things do happen, don't you want to know you're going to be okay as well?
Well, Greg, this is what you and Kristen are so passionate about since we've been starting the shows together for so many years ago, if you will. But you're just so amazingly insightful, and you're kind of that lighthouse in that really troublesome ocean, if you will. You have such a passion for truly helping others.
We do, and like Greg said, what to do next, but what to do first.
Yeah.
And it could be the first step or it could be the next step. But the first step in the process is just sitting down with someone and starting to understand where you're at and where you want to go. And you can do that so easily. Right on our website, there's a tools tab, and you can click on that and download our My Retirement Kit. And it's a nice folder of information that you can start filling out, where things are, what assets you have, what your budget is, and start looking at where everything lays so that you can start to formulate the questions that you have about your retirement, because sometimes you just don't know what to ask, right?
That's true.
And I think from your own home you can do this and start the process rolling. Sometimes taking that first step is the hardest step to take.
Absolutely. Greg, any final pieces of wisdom and advice you want to give our viewers at home? We have about a minute left.
Oh my goodness. I don't know if a minute's enough to transport all this wisdom and knowledge.
Cliff Notes version.
Once you get something like that My Retirement Kit in place to help you get the thought process started, now put it into practice.
Yeah.
Get a discovery session set up so that you can start the path of your written plan.
Greg, thank you so much. Kristen, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, most specifically, thank you for spending time with us today on Winning Retirement Television. You should not go into the retirement years having confusion or fear. Greg and Kristen will allow you to have guidance and peace of mind. Again, thank you for watching Winning Retirement Television with Greg and Kristen Taylor. Be safe, be happy, be blessed. We'll see you back here 1 week from today. Take care.